A reverse shell in 3 seconds, this time on Hak5.
Hello, welcome to Hak5. My name is Darren Kitchen.
My name is Shannon Morse.
It's your weekly dose of Technolust.
You did it right!
I know, and it's so good to be back in the studio.
It is good to be back. I just got back from Denver, which is apparently 6,000 feet above sea level or something like that.
Fantastic.
It's very, very high up, and like walking through the airport, which is apparently full of conspiracy theories. I got video of everything. I'm gonna put them on my Snubs report on my personal YouTube.
You guys
so funny.
have to check out the Snubs report. If you're on the Hak5 YouTube, scroll all the way down to the bottom and you'll find the playlist to Shannon's vlog. It's really good.
Did you know they have alien skulls at the Denver airport?
No.
Yeah, it's true. There's an alien skull. It's real.
I just remember Denver the Last Dinosaur. So that's my only reference there. So, hey, guess what we're doing today?
What are we doing?
Reverse shells.
We've done that before.
Now we're doing them better.
How?
Because that's with PowerShell. We're iterating.
Are they faster and more intense?
Faster and literally, like that is the number one direction that we had in the first couple of seasons of Hak5. We
Go
do
faster with more intensity.
Yep.
Do the thing.
Yeah, I think that's a Spielberg thing.
I don't know.
I think it is.
I'm not a big movie buff, so
okay.
I wouldn't know.
I don't think it's a Lucas thing. Somebody will let us know in the comments, but faster and more intense.
All right, so for everybody out there who is fairly new to the world of hacking, Darren, what is a reverse shell?
Why, Shannon, I'm glad you asked. You see, a reverse shell is a type of shell where the victim computer calls back to the attacker computer. The attacking computer typically listens on a specific port, and when it receives that connection, it's then able to execute commands on the victim's computer. In essence, it's remote control of a machine on the internet.
That's super fun! And of course, we need to have specific methods to get that remote shell, correct?
Right, so our typical methods of any shell might be, say, NetCat or SSH, SSH being my favorite.
NetCat is awesome!
When you're talking about reverse shells, it's instead of me calling the computer and having it already waiting there listening for me to connect, instead, since it's not already set up to do that, I'm setting up a reverse shell. So it is going to call back to me.
Cool.
So that's the reverse nature of it. And the typical things are Meterpreter, which is part of the Metasploit framework, or just simple what we call NetCat reverse shells.
Yeah.
It can just be done, it's just raw sockets.
NetCat is so easy.
Yes.
Makes the entire thing easy.
I love me some NetCat.
All right, so I've gone over NetCat, so if you're fairly new to it, you can check out my hack tips. But for today specifically, I want to know how you get NetCat onto a victim's computer.
All right, so there's a couple of different ways. Obviously, you can, say this is boring Windows box here is our victim computer, and then we've got our Hacker Linux box over here waiting to receive that connection.
I like how you stickered up the Linux one and you didn't sticker up the Windows one.
Oh yeah, Shannon. I mean,
that's how it works.
That's how it works. If you don't have hacker stickers on it, it's not a hacker laptop.
Of course.
These make it go faster, folks.
They do. They really do.
So the typical ways to get information onto any computer, whether it be a reverse shell or anything, obviously, is you can either download it from the network, or you can install it from a floppy disk, or a
USB Rubber Ducky.
Or a USB drive.
Yeah.
Or whatever form of mass storage, a CD-ROM. These days it's all USB, right? But those are the two typical ways of doing that.
Okay.
There are some reasons why you might not want to do that when it comes to doing things like reverse shells, because you're hacking. You don't want to necessarily, say, download something over the internet, because it may throw flags in some intrusion detection systems. Another reason why you might not want to use mass storage is a lot of group policies, for instance, and a lot of organizations will prohibit or whitelist various different types of USB drives because of policies against foreign USB drives in organizations. I mean, there's good reasons why you don't want somebody walking off with 50 terabytes of NSA material or something.
I wonder.
Not like that's ever happened.
So
or
are you
going to type it in.
Or you could type it in. And so for today's example, we're going to be using a USB Rubber Ducky. I want to see a demo of how this is going to work. Okay,
so this is a fun one. I'm just going to go ahead and set up the listener here on the hacker box.
Okay.
So I don't know, on this command prompt here, I'm just going to do netcat tac listen tac port 8080. All right, so I'm listening on port 8080. I've already preset this up. So now let's go over to my Windows box. All right, so boring Windows box, nothing really exciting going on here. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happens when I plug in a USB Rubber Ducky. You guys should be familiar with this by now. This has been all over Mr. Robot recently, and this is essentially a USB drive that acts like a keyboard and then types a pre-programmed payload very quickly. So this payload is going to get us a reverse shell over NetCat, without downloading over the internet and without showing up as mass storage.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and just switch over to this Windows box here and plug it in. And
plugged in.
It's not going to look like anything at first because it's just enumerating with the system, but in just a moment you're going to see it's going to start typing. Okay, so we're doing a little PowerShell, get a little pop-up. We're bypassing this UAC prompt here by just hitting Alt-Y for yes. Now we've got a system command prompt, and we're going to go ahead and start typing into the command prompt. This right here is doing a copycon command. It's an old DOS command that's creating a VBS file in the root. And then it's typing all of this into a reverse.txt file. So I'm going to switch here. You can see my hands are off the keyboard, and it's continuing to type. And that is base64 encoded binary.
You mean you can't type that fast? Because I can.
Oh, right. So when it's all said and done, it basically uses C script to take that Visual Basic script that we just created, that VBS file, and then it takes the input file, which is that reverse.txt that we had created. So all the user has done is created 2 text files on the system, a reverse.txt file and a decode.vbs file.
Okay.
And we use the Visual Basic script to take that text file and then basically convert it into an executable.
That's so cool.
Right? And it was able to do that because it's base64 encoded, it is just a text file, and then now suddenly there's new executable on the machine, whereas there wasn't over the network or over mass storage that file copied.
Now I noticed that this took about 20 seconds or so, not 2 or 3 seconds like we said it would.
Right. No, and that could be a problem in a social engineering scenario.
Yeah, 20 seconds. I mean, I feel like you would have to keep somebody very distracted for 20 seconds, and in a lot of cases, that might be very hard to pull somebody away for 20 or 30 seconds. So what other drawbacks are there to that kind of method?
Well, a couple of things can be done to obfuscate this payload. For instance, if I were to switch back to this machine and do, say, color FE in all caps, I could make the command prompt, hard to read. I'll do color A to reset that. I could also do, the various ways to change the size of the window or even move it beyond the command prompt. So if I hit Alt space and M, you can just hit the down arrow a bunch. Okay, remember there was a bunch of stuff on the screen. I hit enter. Okay, what's the active window?
So silly.
It's hard to tell what the active window is, but if I type CLS right now and hit enter, you didn't see anything happening until I hit Alt space and M again and bring that window back to the foreground. And as you can see, I was able to interact with the command prompt even though it wasn't visible on the screen. It's an all right payload in that it gets us a reverse shell. If I actually switch over to my Windows box here, remember that NetCat listener was listening on port 8080.
Oh yeah, you're on Windows System 32.
Who am I? And I am that machine.
That's awesome.
And I can do
Danger
DIR.
Animal.
Danger Animal. That's the name of the computer, and boom, there you go.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
I have that reverse shell. But yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah.
And it does so by putting an executable on the system. It's essentially a very small version of NetCat, and that may be detected by Windows Defender or any other antivirus and things of that nature. It's a fun example of what's possible as far as getting executables onto a machine. It doesn't necessarily have to be a reverse shell executable. That's a 2K file, and it took about 20 seconds. Yeah, as you might imagine, if you're trying to put megabytes on here,
it would take a lot longer.
Really long.
So this was using NetCat, but what about PowerShell? Because can't use that now, and how does that one differ from NetCat?
Absolutely. So that's the much better way to do it in these days. PowerShell, if you're not familiar, it's the Windows command line shell and scripting language that was, I guess it was introduced in like Service Pack 2 of Windows XP. It really became commonplace in Vista and beyond, and that means that it's a really nice alternative to that old school DOS-style CMD. If you're familiar with the disk operating system, CMD has been around since Windows 95.
Oh yeah.
And DOS predates Windows completely, so there's been a bunch of bolt-ons to make CMD more useful for systems administrator. But over the years, Microsoft was like, okay, look, we need to write something completely new and built specifically for systems administration, hence PowerShell. It's a really powerful scripting language, and with it, we can do NetCat-like functionality in its own code without having to inject a binary onto a system.
But I like DOS.
I know, right?
But I like it.
Well, I like CPM as well, but you don't see anybody running that.
So this reverse shell is staged, right?
Yeah, so that's the fun thing about the new one is what I just showed was a single stage. Kind of think about it like how you get to the moon. It's like a single stage to orbit would be one spaceship that just takes off and then it ends up on the moon, right? A multiple stage would be like an Atlas V rocket that takes off and then it jettisons a portion of it when that has depleted its fuel, and then another portion then takes off.
Okay.
See, so what we're going to do is using PowerShell, we are going to stage this. And there's, yay, right? Okay, so let's just talk about the quickest way to get code onto this machine, because that's what it really comes down to. If I come back over to this Windows box, for instance, the fastest way to get anything onto a Windows box is to hold down the Windows key and hit R, and you get yourself a nice little run
Yay,
line.
run.
Yay, run. And I could do cmd/k tree c:\\, and I'll put that in quotes, right? So what that's going to do is run the tree command, and it's going to run it in CMD. So this is like the damn simplest way to run anything. The unfortunate thing here is, and let me stop this tree because...
Let me guess, are you limited, like in character count, how many characters you can stick in that little box?
I know, it's like a tweet.
Really?
That's exactly what it is.
Is it 140 characters?
No, it's actually
what is it?
It's 260.
Oh,
and
so 2 tweets almost.
Right, and here's the problem. This reverse shell that I really want to use as a single stage, and maybe there's a way to shave it down, I'm hoping, but it's currently 284 characters.
Oh, man.
Right?
So close.
24 characters. You ever like write the perfect tweet and you're like, I'm 2 characters over?
Oh yeah, all the time.
That's kind of why we're going to have to stage this payload.
Okay.
Yes, and so for that reason, instead of just executing the entire thing into that run line, we're actually, right into the prompt, we're going to actually be hosting this PowerShell script on a web server somewhere. And then with my script up in the cloud, I can then have my payload go and download and execute that on the victim machine.
Oh, that is cool.
So let's take a look at what that reverse shell actually looks like. Now here on my hacker box, on the left, I'll go ahead and let me just stop that command. I'm going to cat r.ps1. This is my reverse shell. And this right here opens a net socket on, as a TCP client, and then you specify your endpoint. In this case, it's this IP address,
port
and
8080.
it's this port, which is this shell that I have over here. So let me actually get out of that NetCat shell. Let me cancel out of this, and I'll just re-listen. Okay, so now I have my listener set up, and I have my payload over here, but I'm actually need to host this on a web server. Just to be, cheap or whatever, I'm going to use PHP to host a web server. If you do sudo php with attack capital S, you can actually spin up a little web server. You just have to give it a IP address and a port. Now 0.0.0.0 in this case means, hey, listen on all of my interfaces on port 80, and then tac-t is the directory that I'm going to be hosting. So in this case, I'm hosting tilde, which is my home directory, and if I had, for instance, like an index.php file in there, I could now test that in a web browser by going to localhost.
That's really cool.
Yeah, fun little tip. And I'm just going to use this so that I can host my second stage. So let's see what that looks like. All right, so I've got that going. It does need sudo because it's on port 80. And let's go ahead and in a new terminal, I'll go ahead and look at, for instance, the actual Ducky payload. So if I nano reverse shell, I don't know, here, let's make this bigger. Reverse shell NetCat, right? This is the one that we did before. And this is many, many lines of Ducky script, and you can see what it's doing. It's, it's hitting Windows key R, and it's typing in this PowerShell, and it's hitting Alt Y, and then it's doing all of these DOS commands like copycon. And you can see this is a long Ducky script. I mean, we're talking, what, 84 lines right there? Okay, let's take a look at the new one. Nano reverse shell PowerShell staged.
What?
That's it.
So it's just going to that website on the server, and it's pulling the PowerShell script.
Yes.
That is so cool.
So it's 5 lines. If we actually walk through it, the first thing that it does is waits for 1 second, which is to give the computer a chance to recognize the Ducky as a keyboard. Then it hits GUI R, which is Windows key R, to pull up the run line. It waits 100 milliseconds, and then it types in this right here. And we've used this before, actually. This is a great little piece of PowerShell. All this is doing is this net web client object here allows us to download as a string whatever we want, and then it'll execute this. And this right here is this r.ps1 that I'm hosting with that little PHP. And then it hits enter. So it just types in a one-liner, hits enter, which is faster than my than typing in the whole 284 characters.
My question was going to be, it's still running a script though, and it's running pretty much the same script. you're still getting a reverse shell and everything. So, but it still makes it faster on the target computer.
Yeah, this way it's actually faster to deploy because as you saw, like how many characters did I actually type? Let's see. I don't know. This is, if I hit Control-C, you'll see I'm on character number 122. Less the word string space. So this is very few characters that it's typing in and hitting enter, which is what's making this a 3-second payload. In fact, it's probably faster than 3 seconds, but I just want to be conservative and be like, dude, it's like a reverse shell in 2 seconds.
Don't worry, somebody in the comments will be like, I made this 1 second.
Right, which I would love to see. I'm going to real quick encode this and put it on my USB Rubber Ducky.
Okay.
You guys have seen this before. Basically, all I do is have to go ahead and take the micro SD card out of my Ducky, put that in the SD card reader.
I always pull the micro SD card out with my teeth.
You would. All right, so I have my new volume here. I can see, I can open it with files. I've got my inject up in, right? And so I just do Java, tac jar, duckencode.jar, my input file, which in this case is the reverse shell PowerShell stage, and then the output file will be /media, / my username, / whatever the name of the SD card is, and inject.bin. Now I've already done this, so I'm not going to run that, but essentially that's what going to go ahead and put the inject.bin on the card.
Okay.
I go ahead and safely eject the card by hitting the little eject button there. All right.
Always important.
Always important. SD cards are terrible about just going read-only if you don't properly eject them.
They really are.
So pop that in the duck, and then the last thing is to just go ahead and make sure that I have everything listening and waiting.
Okay.
Okay, so on my hacker box, let's see, on the left.
You open NetCat.
Right, on the left you can see I've got my PHP-S, and it is hosting up that web server right there. And then over here, I'm listening on port 8080, fantastic. So that's all good and well. Now let's switch back over to this Windows box, and I'm just gonna close this. And I'm just gonna plug in the Ducky now, and this is gonna be real quick, so let's just watch that. All right, and then if we switch back over here in just a moment, you'll notice right here that it just made a request for r.ps1. That's the file I was serving up. And we don't see anything over here on our NetCat listener because this shell, it's not the prettiest, but if I do a dir, there you go.
Oh.
If I do who am I, you get the output of all of these commands. So it's not a pretty shell.
It's not, but it works.
It's a shell.
Yeah.
It's a shell in 3 seconds.
Yeah, and it's much more obfuscated than the previous one. And it is a lot quicker on the target computer.
It's like that.
In, out, and you're done.
Right?
That's so cool.
There's a lot of opportunities to make this even better, which is one of the reasons why I'm throwing this out into the universe, because I can't wait to hear your feedback and see where we can go with this. So we're going to talk a little bit about fun things that we have coming up here, but first, we're going to take a quick break. Time to take a moment to thank our awesome sponsor, Domain.com, which is the place to go when you need to take your brain idea and put it onto the internet. It's where Shannon and I go whenever we need domain names because they have a super simple domain discovery system that'll help you find the perfect domain name right for you. And their checkout process is a breeze, which means your website will be up online in no time flat. And I've told you guys time and time before that Domain.com are awesome folks. They love Hak5, they love you guys, which is why we have a special coupon code that'll hook you up with 20% off. Get this, just enter the coupon code HAK5, that spells Hak5 over at Domain.com checkout, and save yourself 20%. And so when you think domain names, think Domain.com.
We are back, and it's now time for the Technolust photo of the week. Every single week, we are asking you what tickles your Technolust. You can tweet us, Instagram, or Facebook with the hashtag Hak5, that's HAK5, for your chance to win some awesome gear from the Hack Shop. Darren, what do we have for our winner today?
Oh, guess what? Given the segment, we're going to be sending you your very own USB Rubber Ducky.
That's right, and our winner this week comes from Twitter. It's PowerSlave.
Hey, that works perfectly with our PowerShell segment.
So he's got a Mark IV, an Alpha, and a battery inside a Jack Daniels tin, of course.
Oh, you know
old number 7, I believe it is.
Yeah, good old number 7. I will say it looks really great, but I'm a little concerned about those SMA cables. They look really, I mean, they're connected to the tin.
It's a tin. So.
Yeah, so you get tin on the metal SMA connector with your antenna. Might want to put some rubber on it. That's my advice to the one there, Shannon. It's good advice. It's always good advice. You know what? I actually feel really bad that he's got a Mark 5 or a Mark 4.
Man.
That we're gonna upgrade him. We're gonna send him a Nano in addition to
Ooh,
the Ducky. Just
lucky.
because, come on, you gotta get the upgrade. All right. Hey,
I like it. So I'll be sending you a direct message to get your address and stuff. So I promise I won't keep it for myself.
Hey, right? Like when we need to clean out the closet and we find a bunch of EDO RAM and we're like, how are we going to e-cycle all of these 16 megabyte SIMs? And then we're like, oh, let's send it to... Anyway, we've never done that. If you would like to receive EDO SIMs, if you would like to win awesome stuff from the Hack Shop, all you have to do is use the hashtag Hak5 on your favorite social media, and we would love to pick you guys next.
Next week.
I am super excited about the feedback on this because I would love to see how this iterates. Find the complete show notes over at hak5.org. That's where you're going to find all of the scripts so you can copy and paste them into your web server. And did it not? Anyway, I'll save it for next week. There's some amazing possibilities here.
Wow, okay.
Yes.
If you guys have feedback, you can email us feedback@hak5.org. That's for the show. The Hack Shop contacts over at hakshop.com.
Yes, it is. And hey, if you want to support us directly, get some awesome, cool swag like the ducky and the turtle and the pineapple and all the other fun farm creatures that we have here in the tropical island pond that is Hak5, hakshop.com. We take this very seriously.
Yes, we do.
Yes, this is what happens to podcasters after 11 years. Hey, with that, I'm Darren Kitchen.
I'm Shannon Morse.
Trust your technolust. Hello, welcome to Hak5. It's your weekly dose of technolust.
Oh, my name is Shannon Morse.
Oh, I don't remember how we do this. I'm Darren Kitchen. Now, how do we do this again?
Hello and welcome to Hak5. This is your weekly dose of technolust. My name is Darren Kitchen, and I'm Shannon Morse. And then we go on with the show.
Can I go, and I'm Shannon Morse?
Sure.
I'm Shannon Morse.
I'm just going to leave that in. I just got back from Denver. You guys have a really cool town over there. It's very high up. It's like 6,000 feet above sea level. Like, it's kind of scary. I got there and like my heart freaked out. It was so weird and I was like, oh my gosh, I just walked like a mile in the airport. Why in the world is my heart freaking out? But it was because it was so high up. It was weird.
Best blooper ever.
Yeah.
I love doing this show, Shannon.